In this week's episode, I interview a teacher and her daughter who is one of her students at a middle school. And I let them turn the tables and interview me. What was I thinking?
Substitute Teachers Lounge.
All right, I'm pleased to say today we are interviewing for the first time a teacher and her child who is a student she teaches. So we're going to talk about that. And also for the first time, I'm going to have turn the tables a little bit and let them interview me. So Amber's the teacher, Rose is the student. How you doing today, guys?
Good.
Good. Now I'll have to say, even though substitute teachers aren't allowed to have favorites, Amber has taught me a lot about how to be a better substitute teacher, how to be a better math teacher. She is a math guru. So is her daughter, for that matter. Rose is as well. And even though I'm not allowed to have favorite students, Rose already knows this. She knows that she's one of my favorites because she always goes out of her way to help me when I needed help. I have substitute taught her class before. So that's the kind of situation we're in. What's that?
Numerous times.
Yes. In fact, we'll talk about that. Let's get into that. I've told people in the show all the time about how I know everybody wants to get to the top of a teacher substitute teacher list. So let's start with the negative first and get that out of the way.
Okay.
So Amber, what did a substitute teacher ever do what could they ever do to cause you to cross them off of your list?
So I think it's really important to understand what are my expectations for a substitute teature. This is my 6th year of teaching, and I actually substitute taught for a semester before I got my own classroom.
Okay,
so,
I don't know if I knew that.
Yeah, I did that while I was working on my clinical hours because I'd quit my job on a whim to follow this dream of teaching. So anyways, I substitute taught before teaching, and I got to do that in various classrooms, elementary, middle, high school, ECE, whatever. I got to see what the teachers left me.
Right.
And so I've tried to take that as I've moved into the classroom. And generally my expectations for substitute teachers are keep my kids alive, keep them in the room, and try to get them to do the work that I have left. Now, for the most part, the work that I leave is usually not new content.
Right.
It is usually going to be review. I work really hard to make sure I'm in class on time, blah, 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 blah. And things happen, life happens, you have meetings, whatever, and you have to be gone. So like I said, my expectation is keep my kids alive. There are a couple of substitutes that I have said, nope, I do not want them to come back to my classroom. Thank you. I have a pretty good relationship with my students. They're pretty upfront and honest with me.
Sure.
And when they say, hey, and I say, hey guys, how'd it go yesterday? Because either I got a note or I got a horrendous note, or I got no note at all. Then I kind of ask the students, hey, how did it go yesterday? And you're looking for feedback from a couple of data points, right? I mean, the ones that usually always do what they're supposed to do, the ones that don't, and the ones that are kind of quiet about things. And when students say, well, all they did was sit at the computer and play games and buy Amazon. Awesome. That's one I don't need to come back to my classroom.
Right.
They yelled at us a lot, Miss Snell. My classroom's not one that's our culture. They yelled at us a lot, and I'm like, I mean, like, listen, I know you guys could be a little unruly sometimes, and so you kind of check in, and they're like, no, they were really yelling at Rose a whole lot, and they even came and slammed down on their desk. Okay, I don't need that person back in my room. Thank you. So not engaging with my kids,
yes,
or treating my kids less than they deserve to be treated, are generally too, like, I don't want you back. You have substituted for me before. You're like, hey, I thought the Kahoot did that instead of the worksheet. I'm like, whatever. Were they
and Rose knows I love Kahoot, so
just treating my kids the way that I want them to be treated and the way that they deserve to be treated. If you don't do that, then I don't want you back.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Let's let Rose talk a little while. What made it? And you have to have that's the way math works. You have to have a least favorite sub. So what made that least favorite sub your least favorite?
Probably, first of all, they really didn't have a good attitude about being there. They were just like, so your teacher's not here, so I'm here. And yeah, that's pretty much. And we had gotten left to do like iReady. And so it was pretty easy. All we had to do was get on the computers and do our stuff.
Right.
And at that point, we were allowed to listen to music while we did iReady as long as we did it.
Sure.
And they were like, I don't want you all listening to music. And we were like, our teacher lets us listen to music anyways. And she was like, I don't care. I'm the teacher today. You don't get to listen to music. And we were all like, well, okay, then you're only going to be here for a day. It doesn't hurt us that much. And so some of us got to doing iReady. And usually once we were done with iReady, we could pretty much do whatever we wanted, because as long as we had done iReady, it didn't matter for anything.
Right.
And so when somebody got done in the class and they went to raise their hand and they were like, I'm done with my iReady. What should I do? And they were like, I don't know. They were like, I don't know. That's your problem. And so,
wow.
Yeah. And so the student was like, can I just can I play like cool math games or something? Cause that's what she usually lets us do when we're done.
Sure.
And the sub was like, I don't want you playing that. And so the student was like, okay, what do you want me to do then? And they were like, I don't know, just don't do that. And so we were like, okay, so what are we supposed to do once we're done? And she was like, and they were like, just keep doing iReady. And we were like, but we've already got the time and we've already got our lessons done. And they were like, next person who says anything, I'm writing you up. And we were all like, but we didn't do anything. And that's just it. Yeah.
No, I agree with everything both of you said. And I might flip the question around, but I'm not really sure I need to. And Rose, I'll start with you this time. I was going to ask you, if you think about some of your favorite subs, what made them your favorites? And of course, some of that would be they treated you the opposite of the way you just described. Is there anything else you can think of that you like to see when a substitute teacher walks in?
Well, usually when you first walk into the classroom and your teacher's not there, you look for the first person that's there. And usually if they're like smiling or they're talking, like your first impression is, okay, they seem like a good sub.
Yeah.
And usually if they really interact with you and you do fun stuff with them, even if it's just you talking to them while you're doing iReady, like it really makes you feel like, hey, you're pretty cool, actually. I like you a little bit.
Yeah, I hear all the time that when I interview students, how they they not only like the interaction, they like the personal stories. And I'm thinking all these corny personal stories that I tell, I can't believe you guys like that.
Yes.
But it seems like they do. What do you think, Amber? What would make a substitute teacher go to the top of your list?
So like you said, just the opposite of not doing those other things.
Right.
It's always refreshing when you walk in from having been gone and you're like, so how did it go? And they're like, we love that person, da 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 da. And as a math teacher who has limited time to get in all my content, like, I love that you love them and that's awesome. But what did you do while I was gone? Because sometimes we may have a week-long training, and while I don't want to necessarily push a whole lot of new content during that time, it may be self-paced new content. And so I still need you to do the things that I needed you to do, right? And so when I check in and the kids are like, we just played on iReady the whole time. And it's like, awesome. You were doing something. Okay, cool. You were alive and you liked them and you did something. Cool.
Right.
If they got through the things that I asked them to get through, then that's definitely, and they responded well to my kids, then that's always a higher plus. And honestly, thinking back to when I subbed, I learned some of my best classroom management techniques during that time, I feel like, because you're thrust into a classroom that you don't know the culture, you don't know the kids, right. You don't know any of the expectations. You don't know if you've got kids that are normally sitting in detention all day long or, that are the advanced accelerator. You have no idea. And I have felt bad for the kids when in my own class in substituting, when I walk in and it's like, here's a worksheet. When they do this worksheet, do another worksheet, do another worksheet, do another worksheet. I was like, whew. And so I think by about the middle of the first class, I was like, there's got to be a different way to cover this stuff. Like I'm bored and I can't imagine. And so, I think at that time is when I learned like some popcorning or some stand up and move, or how would you show this shape? Or, my kids rolled their eyes when I make them stand up and show me parallel lines or 90-degree angles, but they're moving. Yeah. See, yes. This is the face I get when they do that. Yeah. And learning to do some of those, or learning to do like the Kahoots, or finding those resources just to build engagement. Right. Was things that I try to remember even in planning my own class. So at the end of the day, if I've given a worksheet, because I don't know the comfort level of the substitute, right? At the very least, you can put a worksheet in front of them, right, or put them on a computer and do something. But if you advance that or excel that into an engaging activity, that is like, my kids enjoyed you. You got the content done. You were engaging to them. Like, please come back. I will check with you. I will book you 6 months in advance. That's great. All right, now guys, there's a set of questions that I have to ask, and I'm not sure which one of you to start with. I'm gonna start with Rose. I actually met Rose before I met you. So, all right, Rose, what's it like to have a parent as a teacher, and in your situation as a coach too? Yes. What's it like? We spend a lot of time together. But I think it's actually really, really cool because, like, if I'm struggling with something, I can just be like, hey Mom, I'm struggling with this thing, can you help me out a little bit? And it's just nice to have that, like, the math coach, math teacher right there to be able to be like, okay, let's work on a strategy to figure this out that makes sense for you. And I just, like, it can get I get questions asked a lot of times. They're like, does your mom ever help you with anything? I'm like, I mean, she helps me, but, like, it's not like she gives me answers to a test or anything. Yes. It's like,
she helps me a lot more, and I think it's really great.
Good. Is that the answer you paid her to say? Is that the way that?
No. And there are our share of tears at our house.
Yes.
Sometimes she's like, I just need you to step away right now because I want to help.
Right.
But I think that dynamic of the teacher, right? Because you're not going home to your parent who you don't see all day long and asking them for help. You're going home. She not only sees me for our class, but she sees me for homeroom. We have practice multiple times a week or games. I mean, like she said, we spend a lot of time together.
Right.
Which I'm so blessed to do, but it can be intense sometimes. So sometimes she's like, Mom, I just need you to step away and let me do this on my own. The flip side of that as the teacher's kid is even when she was at a different middle school in 6th grade, because she came to me in 7th grade, and I've had her for 7th grade and 8th grade, and then I have my son now for 6th grade.
Well, she had a really terrible substitute teacher in 6th grade too. That's probably part of that problem.
No, she loved that substitute. She's very upset that he can no longer substitute for her. But while she was going to school there and they were pacing through content accordingly, she'd come home and I would test out things on her.
Oh, okay.
And even last year when I went into teaching 7th grade and had never taught the content before, she would almost have to take tests twice. Once as I was building it so I could see where maybe I had missed some misconceptions along the way. And then another version for class. So it wasn't ever that they get it easier. In fact, they probably get a little bit harder because, they're my guinea pigs. And
yeah, I agree with that. And I think that's true of life in general. You always, the kids are kind of our sounding blocks and we're a little bit, I don't want to use the word tougher, but we're a little bit tougher maybe on our own kids sometimes. I have to tell you guys this story. I haven't had too many teachers in my life that actually had students, their own kids as students in my class. But one that I did, he was smart, but he was just mischievous. So he talked to a couple of guys one day. We just had gotten back from lunch and his mother hadn't gotten back yet. Math teacher. I learned plane geometry, solid geometry, all those things from. So a really smart teacher like yourself. But he convinced the other guys to drag her desk, that big old-fashioned desk back in the old days, out into the hallway and hide it under a stairwell. And she didn't really discipline him in front of us, but I don't know what happened to him when he got home that night. But that's my experience. So I'm glad you guys are not in that situation.
Well, and I think my own too, if that was to have happened to me, there wouldn't have been a waiting for getting home, which would have been addressed. And they both know that. I mean, the way that I set the expectations for my class are the same way that I do for my kids. I mean, my children know that they are loved and that I think very highly and expect a lot of them and will help them get there. But, I have the same expectations for all my students.
Right. And I can see that in you two too. So I think that's a great relationship you have there. All right, guys, let's do this. Let's turn the tables now and you interview me for a while. You can do it as a substitute teacher. You can do it about any part of my background. You know me as a volleyball coach. I talk about volleyball on here all the time. Anything you want to ask me is free game. Go ahead. And guys, I have no idea what's coming. So here we go.
How much time do we have?
This is a podcast. We have forever. Probably, I'd say 10 minutes.
Okay.
So what do you do when a teacher doesn't leave enough work for the entire class period?
That's a great question. So much so that we have had an entire episode on that. I always talk about my back pocket. I go into it. In fact, to be honest, I hope we run out of material.
Because it gives you a chance to play.
Yeah, I want to. It's not so much play. I still try to make sure that it's on task. But yes,
I meant that.
I know, definitely playful though. I would agree with that. I at the same time, I'm trying to make sure they get their work done. I'm trying to build relationships with them too, because I know they're going to talk to the teacher. I want to come back. I've mentioned this several times. There's actually a teacher at another middle school that I've taught for several times. And the second time I came in there, she said, she said, those kids like you. And she said, sometimes that bothers me when I hear that because I don't think they're getting their work done. But right. She said they got their work done. So I always like to have some stuff in my back pocket, whether it's Kahoot or just personal stories. To be honest, I'm pretty good about looking up a teacher on Facebook or whatever social media. And I try to get a feel for what class I'm teaching. And maybe that helps me formulate my thoughts on what I want to do if we do run out of material. Okay. How'd I do on the first one?
Good.
Good. All right. What else you got?
What about your favorite classrooms are the ones that you have substituted in?
From a standpoint of the room or the teacher? Or either? Okay. I've actually been in classrooms. In fact, yours is one of them. I've never told you this, but there's others too that I really enjoy what's on the walls so much so that I'll take a snapshot. And we also have a Facebook page and I'll post it on the Facebook page because I really like it. So anything, and I don't know if Rose ever told you this, but when I taught her in 6th grade and the class I taught at that same school in 7th grade too, I used to keep a whiteboard outside the room and put goofy stuff on it, right? I want to be known for goofy stuff. I want students to feel like they can talk to me about anything in addition to their subject. So I like classrooms that create that atmosphere. I like teachers that allow me to create that atmosphere. And I like to get personal with teachers eventually, not the first time, but eventually, because I'll start asking them questions. And as you know, we text each other all the time. And I would say probably maybe you and the teacher that teaches across the hall from you, mm-hmm. if I don't count the long-term sub positions I've had, I probably have taught for you guys more than anybody. So, and if I wasn't crazy about an atmosphere I'd be in, if the teacher asked me specifically, I'd come back in. But if it was like a sub alert or a frontline type situation, I may say, I don't think I enjoyed that class last time. I might wait and see if something else pops up. Yeah. So that's the kind of things I look for.
Yeah, I think actually the teacher across the hall from me, because when I came to Madison,
she was the first one I ever substituted for.
Well, and when I came to Madison Middle, brand new to Madison County, I didn't know what subs were available. I had no clue. And so, I asked Rose at her school, who did she have and she liked? And there again, try not to be absent that much, but 4 kids, sure. It happens.
Yeah.
I think my co-teacher had mentioned you, but everybody kind of has their person or a person they can get a hold of. And it was like, okay, I'll take some numbers and I'll see. And then if I remember correctly, Rose was like, I love Mr. Collins. And I was like, okay, what? Very good. Why do you like him?
Because I'm goofy. And I always say that I never mentally matured past their age level. So I think that's why I fit it. It's funny that you say that. The teacher across the hall that we're talking about, she was my first class. It's when she was a science teacher. Uh-huh. And her son came in and greeted me that morning because he was putting his lunch in the refrigerator. Yep. And I was kind of nervous because I'm a retired accountant. I always wanted to teach. I now know I wish I had done that for my career.
So you're saying I made a good move leaving corporate and coming to teaching?
Oh man, let's not even get into that. But at the end of the day, I had a lot of students commenting favorably about me, and I didn't know why. Now, some of it is, I've got a pretty outgoing personality, so I will, and not everybody's like that. So I'll joke around with them a lot. And I usually tell them the first day, listen, the more I get to know you, the more I'll joke around, to the point of maybe picking on you a little bit, because I know you're going to give it back to me. And when I see you joking back with me, that's, to me, that's how you build a relationship too. It's not just teaching the material.
Yep.
It's like having some stories to share back and forth too.
Yep.
But anyway, I don't even know what question I was answering, but I hope that was okay.
Yeah.
All right. Make this one the last one and we'll wind it down. You don't have to.
Well, you've seen some other teams play recently. What advice do you have for us on the volleyball court?
Spoken just like a coach. I actually was in the county that was adjacent to ours the other night.
Okay.
I'll give you a hint. It's one that has one of the newest high schools in the state. I was at their middle school last night, which was high school when I went to high school. That was the high school. They looked pretty strong. There was a team that came in from our capital city. If that gives you a hint to who it was, they were very strong. Even their sixth graders were serving overhand from behind the line. So, but I've seen you guys play enough that good things are coming, just like last night. Good things are coming to your team. So it's, to be honest, I'll tell it's not a relatively new program, but you're a newer coach and it's a relatively new program that they're learning. And I've enjoyed watching them get better as those years have gone by. So you guys are on your way.
We actually had a parent last night, one of our 7th grade parents, and he pulled me aside and he said, listen, I know you get all sorts of negative things and all the negative stuff. He said, but I want to tell you, they are fun to watch now.
Yes.
Yeah, 6th grade, it was a little tough, wasn't it? He said, yeah, it was hard to watch, but they're actually a pretty daggone good team.
Yes.
Pretty tough too.
And I always say my favorite coaches are the ones that I can tell the girls enjoy playing for them. I don't care whether they're winning or not. If they're enjoying themselves, in fact, it's harder to enjoy yourself when you're losing. Yeah. So if you're still enjoying yourself, to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah. Well, I think that all goes into, the idea of like continuous growth and growth mindset and just,
no doubt,
enjoying the process of learning. And we always think about of you're either winning or losing, whether it's grades or games or whatever. And just enjoying the process and learning through the process is so important.
I couldn't agree more. Great job, guys. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Rose. I know I will see both of you soon, very soon, right?
Next
volleyball
week,
court and the hallway. So
absolutely.
What profound thoughts do you have to close us out? She looked to the student. I want to go on record to see she looked to the student.
I always give her a chance to go first. I talk too much as it is.
This was fun.
It was fun. I always know when it was a good interview because the time just flies by.
No.
Yes.
Okay. All right, guys. Thanks very much. And we'll see everybody again next week on, I've got the name of the podcast there. Substitute Teachers Lounge. See you later.
Bye.
Music provided by Ben Sound.